Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelicharz. Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelicharz. Thanks for being here. So much appreciate the loyal subscribers we have each and every week. And every week we work really hard to bring new and fresh guests to the show to give you another perspective and another couple of ideas and hopefully some solutions for some of the challenges you may be having. And so I'm happy to regularly have new guests on our show. If you've missed any of our past episodes, I encourage you to go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com, where you'll see a list of all of our episodes, a quick synopsis of each of our guests, and you can pick and choose which episodes you want to listen to. You can also obviously reach us on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. And we've recently started publishing on YouTube as well. So if you go to YouTube and enter I Got a Guy podcast, you'll find our episodes there too. So you'll be able to see us as well as listen to us on the audio podcast. So whatever flavor works best for you, we're here to help and serve, and hopefully it benefits you. I Got a Guy podcast is a little side hustle that I do, and I've been doing this now for a while to help my referral partners and my customers grow their businesses. It's a way of giving back and helping others. I love small business, and I love to help people out. I do a lot of referral marketing and networking for my business. And my primary business is GPS tracking. My company is called Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But the main focus here is really helping others out and helping you as our loyal listeners find ways to get some information and get some knowledge and introduce you to the awesome people I have in my network. And we're happy to have people from all over the country, in fact, throughout the world, listening to our podcasts, and really excited about that progress of the podcast. This week we have a special guest, and he's special in a lot of ways. But we have a special guest on our show this week, and it's actually the first family member I've had joining us as a guest. So I'm welcoming Dave Drelicharz to our show today. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Dave's dad and I are cousins, and so you are my first cousin once removed, I think, is the definition of that. But Dave is an interesting guy, and he's got an interesting side gig, little hobby that's turning into a small little business, little side hustle. And so we're going to learn all about Thrift Store Dave. So, Dave, tell us a little bit about Thrift Store Dave and how they got started and some of the history. You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I've been an avid buyer reseller for over 20 years. Growing up, I would always want to have some extra cash on hand to be able to do stuff. And this was a natural way to kind of grow over the years. I started with just going to garage sales or estate sales and selling stuff on eBay, and have continued to do that, and then eventually looped my family into it with me. So we opened up a page together, and after that, we I don't know. I'm always trying to evolve and grow, and so I wanted to create a YouTube channel as my oldest son is starting to go on YouTube more, and I kind of missed all of that with my training for my career. So my thought is, what better way to learn about it than jump in with both feet, but with something that I know a fair amount about. So I wanted to create this YouTube channel to, I guess if it was going to have a mission, it would be to help buyer resellers like myself that are either aspiring or part-timers like me who have day jobs to help sharpen their eye when they go into a thrift store or a garage sale. You can see a lot of stuff in front of you and it can feel overwhelming. And so helping people hone their focus and really kind of figure out what in that sea of stuff is actually valuable and how to pick it out. And then if you wanted to sell it or even keep it. So I thought it was kind of a cool thing to do, to take my existing eBay page and then leverage its content.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, when I think about thrift stores, and I've watched your videos, of course, I think about that show. It's on the History Channel, American Pickers. And that's on a different scale, of course. I mean, they're buying cars and motorcycles and boats and big petroleum
They
signage.
too, though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's interesting because you're commenting about overwhelming, and when I walk into a thrift store or even a garage sale, oftentimes I'm overwhelmed. It's just too much to look at. It's almost like sensory overload, and so my natural reaction is like, "Huh," I walk out. I don't pay attention to it. But there are probably some really good bargains to be found if you know what you're looking for, and I think that's where you really have a keen eye for.
Yeah, it's something that you have to develop over time with practice. And one of the ways that I found I could overcome the sensory overload was just by focusing on one part of a store. You only have so much time. You can spend hours in a giant two-level thrift store, um, and still just be spinning your wheels. But if you focus on one section, like hats or a jewelry counter or shoes, or more recently, I've discovered neckties. You can just spend a little time, immerse yourself just digging and looking things up. You have your handy phone nearby, so you can do some research on eBay and look at comps. So that way you just spend some time doing it. And at first I'd feel self-conscious, but everyone else is doing it too. And so
Sure.
it's actually kind of a brotherhood of sorts, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess that makes a lot of sense to narrow the focus in on a couple areas and not the entire store. Because you think about a
Yeah,
thrift store, there's furniture, there's tools, there's clothing, there's books, and there's games, and there's electronics. It's like almost too much.
it is, but what I find interesting is when I feel like I've learned enough to be comfortable about something, I can then be more efficient parsing through it. And then I'm comfortable trying the next one. I've also learned from other YouTubers about certain things. They call them bolos, be on the lookout. And that way you can kind of know where to narrow your focus right away. And then it's, again, less overwhelming, but you can start to expand your horizons as far as things you buy and resell.
Sure, sure. So you mainly you spend a lot of time on hats and neckties and clothing, right?
I've
Is
gotten
that because
hats,
they don't depreciate
yeah.
or become obsolete?
Hats, they don't tend to depreciate if they're quality, and if they're sports ones, they can often appreciate with time because just fewer of them exist after the general population wears them. Um, it's also in part due to square footage restrictions. I live in the city of Chicago. I'm happily married, but my lovely wife says that if I can keep it, if it can fit in the man cave, it can stay. If it can't, it needs to go. So again, as this being a side hustle, an emerging small business, I'm restricted by square footage. So I gravitate towards items that are small, that are compact, that can be stacked or put in drawers, so I can maximize my inventory while I'm still out hunting actively for new inventory.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when I go into a thrift store, you know, just based on my history and my technical background, I always look at the electronics. But one of the problems with electronics is they become obsolete very quickly,
Yeah.
unless you wait long enough, where it becomes retro. So but it seems like there's a period of time where it becomes worthless.
I
And
agree, except there's a couple exceptions.
yeah,
Yeah, I've just kind of realized, and again through chance, I'll find something, I'll look it up. I'll often, they call it catch and release, just put it right back. But I found that there's a kind of a surprising market for old digital cameras that people discard because they don't carry a ton of memory. But for some reason, someone might be attached sentimentally to one and it broke or it was dropped in a pool or something. So maybe you won't, get the original retail $100 for it, but some people pay $30 for a 25-year-old digital camera, and I don't understand it, but I'm learning that there's a market for things like that. Um, for computer stuff, I feel like, yeah, if it's like dawn of an era old, then it's quite valuable. But there's a whole, like, yeah, middle time period where it's just, it's waste.
yeah. So then if you buy something and you want to wait for it to become valuable, you're holding on to it for quite a while, and it's taking up valuable real estate.
Yeah, that's probably not the best strategy, I would argue.
I get it. Yeah, great. So so now you pick up these things and you actually video yourself when you're walking through the thrift store, right?
I try to a little bit, but I also try to be a little subtle about it. There
Hmm.
are some people out there that, they have selfie sticks and they're walking around with cameras on their heads, and I mean, maybe that's their full-time thing, but they also have more conflict with people because it's uncomfortable for people at garage sales. You have to get permission to record people. So I usually try to just do 5 to 10 second shots of items that I'm looking at, but I try not to record people or their faces, just because then there's less potential for conflict. Putting
Yeah, I would
myself
imagine.
is more recent. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would imagine that videotaping somebody's face, it becomes a bigger, much bigger liability, and probably just drags out the process.
It could, and that's why I just figure the juice isn't worth the squeeze, especially because this is something that's just emerging. I want to kind of keep creative control and slowly evolve through this. And I've found that I've been evolving in terms of what I buy and sell, which is kind of exciting and keeps the hobby and small business fresh, as well as evolving through the content that I make, because I'm making videos that are, I would argue, higher quality than when I initially started.
Sure. Well, it's part of the learning process, which is actually fun because you learn what works and what doesn't work, and you're giving out great information. So I would imagine your audience um, is amenable to that growing process that you're going through, and and your videos are fun and entertaining. I'm
Thanks.
curious. Does your wife get involved in any of your thrift shopping?
She tends to be a little more camera shy than I am. So she has yet to be on camera. When I did do one video when we were in Sedona, Arizona, and Flagstaff, she actually recorded the haul part of the video where I present to people what I bought and what I expect to get for it. So she was behind the camera once. I told her to channel uh, Jimmy Fallon and his wife, because she recorded during the pandemic all of their in-home shows. So that didn't work, but I got her to record one.
There you go. Good. Are your boys involved?
Yes, actually. Jackson helped narrate a video earlier in the summer when we went to a garage sale, and I've had Cole, who likes to just run around because he's two,
Sure.
scampering about, but also showing me things. And I feel like, again, it kind of makes it human and real and just fun for people who go out there. They realize that yeah, a whole family can go out there and find some cheap toys and enjoy just doing something as a family. This is just something different as a family to do.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. When you think about, the family bonding aspect, it doesn't, everything you do doesn't have to be super expensive to build that bond with your kids. And
No,
just like you spent time with your family doing that when you were younger, having that experience with your boys, they're going to remember that. Now, they may pick up, where at some point where you leave off and keep it growing. Um, they may just simply have some fond memories years down the road,
oh
and
yeah,
and that's awesome.
there's no way that this will lose. It's just a question of
Yeah,
how will it evolve. I mean, I used to go with my dad and mom to garage sales, and so you kind of start to have that, you know, I don't know, the itch, I guess.
sure. Well, your dad's a car guy, so I'm sure he bought a lot of car parts when he was out thrifting back in the day. You
Oh,
didn't gravitate to that side of it.
you know, I guess just something grabs you if it grabs you. I've always been more of an analytical type with and like data. So I initially gravitated towards baseball cards and sports cards
Mm,
because they all had
sure.
statistics on the back of them, and you could kind of see what was what was what for different players. Then the price guide, you can analyze what they're worth. But there was a person that I met growing up in a model railroading club. Rest in peace. His name was Nick Poulos. He ran an auction house in Evanston, 80 on galleries, long since defunct, but he was the first person to teach me when I was in junior high. He said, David, you don't know what something's worth until you try to sell it. And those are words that I took with me, because you can see something and think it's worth $1 million, but if no one else does, then it's still worthless. So it's been a good exercise to remind myself to, you know, do look at a market before making a commitment to something.
Yeah. Well, and that analysis goes the other way as well. I mean, when you think about garage sales, some people will sell everything for 50 cents or a dollar, and if it's worth $10, well, you've made 10 times your money. And
I love
$10 doesn't seem
multiple.
like a lot of money, but when you put it in that scale, it really starts to add up. And that's where you really focus, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, early on, I would buy more things to resell for a little bit here, a little bit there, just in the process of learning about something.
Hmm.
But I also
Hmm.
wouldn't be taking a very high risk. If I spend $1 on something and I couldn't sell it, okay, I can donate it. I could take a tax write-off. You can donate up to $500 of declarable items without declaring a cost basis every year on your taxes if you itemize. And so, you know, I'll buy a lot of different hats out there for $1 or $2 a piece, and some of them will go for 20 to 40 bucks, but some I can't sell for $3. And after trying a few times, I'm like, okay, this apparently wasn't worth what I thought it was. It goes in the pile. And once a year, I make a big trip to Goodwill and I donate a bunch of stuff back.
Sure, sure. And in that process, you learn.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean, it's an education which helps your statistical mindset work to understand, what's good. Next time you won't make that same mistake. Probably you make a different mistake, but not, hopefully not the same mistake.
exactly. And I take notes. I have a book that I keep all of my purchases in and all my sale
Really?
prices in. It's not super organized because I'm a little old school. It's a paper bound book, but I organize it by lot. When I go on a trip, that's a lot with a location and a number, and I have a list of all the items that I bought in that lot. And then as those things sell, I mark down what I sold them for. And my goal at the end is to sell everything from that lot for at least 3 to 4 times what I paid for it, because there's going to be home runs offset by losers.
Sure, sure. Now you do a lot with neckties. I have seen that,
That's
and
a recent thing. Yeah.
so you know, there's less and less people dressing in suits and ties, but there's still a market for people buying neckties.
I couldn't believe it, and I would walk past this tie bin all the time and ignore it. But there have been a couple home runs that I've hit. Um, the first time I just bought a couple on a whim, and I figured people like to buy clothes that are costume like for retro parties that are themed for 20 to 30 years prior. So now you're
Sure.
seeing more 90s parties, and pretty soon you'll see Y2K parties. And costume wear is always something that a younger generation will want to buy. So if it stands out enough, then it could be worth it. And again, if the price is right. So, I mean, one such thing was this really colorful floral tie that looked like it was probably straight out of Woodstock. And I paid $1 for it, but I sold it to someone in California for $33. So that's quite a multiple. And again, it won't pay
Wow.
my mortgage, but as a hobby or a small side hustle, that inspires you to keep on looking for those things
Well,
that people discarded.
that's exactly what it is. It motivates you to find the next diamond in the rough.
It's addictive.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. Dave, we're gonna take a quick break here, and then when we come back, I want to talk about some of your successes because you've had some pretty good wins, and like you just talked about, and I just love our audience to kind of appreciate that, and and follow your YouTube channel and check out your eBay store. Why don't you share your YouTube channel and your eBay store with us?
Absolutely. Thank you. The YouTube channel is at Thrift Store Dave, all one word. So Thrift Store Dave. And the eBay store, which we just opened this past weekend after having just a regular page for years, is LC208, ELSIE 208.
Okay.
One of our old pets from years ago as a family.
No, okay. I wasn't sure if it was the cow that kicked over the lantern,
No,
but
that would have been a little too soon.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, well, that's great. So I'm going to put that information in our show notes, so our audience, both on YouTube and on the audio platform, can find that information. We'll take a short break here, and then we'll come back and we'll chat about some of your successes and impress some of our audience. So be right back. We certainly hope you're enjoying this week's episode, and we'll return to this week's guest in just a moment. But now a message from our sponsor, Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. If you own a fleet of vehicles, even if it's just 2 or 3 vehicles, GPS tracking is an important component for every vehicle. Here are the 5 top reasons companies invest in GPS tracking: driver safety, vehicle location, driver behavior, proof of service, and monitoring vehicle maintenance. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions can enhance your growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. Reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions at www.precise-fleet.com shop.precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call 847-865-6008. That's 847-865-6008. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. GPS tracking made simple. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay, we are back. Thanks for sticking with us. I am Michael Drelicharz, host of I Got a Guy podcast. Our guest this week is Dave Drelicharz, who has a really interesting side hustle, small business called Thrift Store Dave, which is a YouTube channel. He goes out and he buys bargains at thrift stores and garage sales and estate sales, and then finds the diamonds in the rough and sells them for a nice markup. So, Dave, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
You know, when you think about, you think about somebody that's hosting a garage sale. You know, they got a pile full of stuff that may consider junk even, and they just want to get it out of their house. They don't want to throw it away. They want to make some money on it. And if you come in there and you find these things and you help them out, you do them a favor because they want to get rid of this junk. And you find a couple bargains, and now you're able to take that, buy them for $1 a piece, and sell them for $10 or $15 or $20 a piece. It's really a win-win.
Oh,
the person selling it, they just want stuff out of their house, and you take these things like, well, I'm going to make a few bucks on this. I'm going to fill my gas tank or take my family out for dinner or whatever. That's awesome.
It really is. There's one rare exception, which is when someone is probably, my guess is, being forced to have a garage sale, because then their prices are unreasonable and you can tell that they're very attached to their items. So those I don't spend much time at.
Sure.
Once you see something's pretty high priced and you can't haggle, you just move on. But for the people that are deep discounting stuff, they're motivated sellers, and that makes me a motivated buyer.
Yeah, no doubt. So you go to local garage sales, and then you get the thrift stores in the neighborhoods, and then you find some estate sales, right?
Yeah. I used to do a ton more estate sales, but then when we had kids, that became harder to do because they're usually 3-day extravaganzas, and the last day is when everything's marked down in half price. But a lot of times they are done by companies and they are stuck with the prices that are on there. They cannot negotiate any lower. So I tend to kind of parse through the possible estate sales I see on a Craigslist or search, and really gravitate towards ones that are just private sales, because those tend to be the most motivated sellers.
Yeah. Now, do you buy many things online, like a Facebook Marketplace, or are those too high, more retail priced?
Marketplace can be a little bit more retail, but I'll look. I actually, believe it or not, do pretty well going back on eBay. There are some people that will list a lot of items and not know exactly what it is they're selling, or not know that one thing in that lot is actually quite valuable. So this actually happens to me. Well, the origin to the story was I went to this garage sale of a guy who was a flea marketer, and he was just cleaning stuff out. He was out in Montrose and Pulaski. This was like probably 6 years ago. And he had this bag of pin backs or pins that people will wear like political buttons. And I'm like, oh, how much for the bag of pins? Noticing that some of these look like they were pushing 100 years old. And he's like, oh, $5. So I grabbed it. I didn't even hesitate to negotiate with him. And I went through that bag of pins, and I found like a 1933 Anton Cermak Rest in Peace pin when the mob offed him. He was assassinated as Chicago's mayor. That went for $30 alone. So already I'm at 6x what I paid for this whole bag, and I was able to go through and find other political pins, sports pins. I probably made $100 just on that $5 bag. And after that, I'm like, well, there's probably people on eBay putting up bags of pins and lots of pins. So for a while, it met my criteria, which is it's compact, it fits in a place with no square footage, the man cave, and I can stack it, and it's lightweight to ship. So you're not going to spend a ton of money on shipping them to people who really want them around the country or around the world. So yeah, I was able to do very well with that, and that has led to me buying other pins and in lots on eBay.
That's interesting. So, like old political pins, like or union pins, those kind of things.
Union pins tend to be a little less valuable, like as far as like monthly dues pins and whatnot. Even early 1900s, but you've got pins that are like for presidential elections. And really, they just started making actual pins like in a tin lithograph fashion in 1896. And so prior to that, there's other political memorabilia that people would purchase or make and distribute. But 1896 is kind of when it really hit its dawn, I guess you could say. So I found that a lot of those things I can find hidden in lots and then resell. And I even had a couple things. You were asking about home runs earlier. There are these 2 pins that I bought in one lot from a dude in Missouri, and I spent $200, I think, on this lot of pins because everyone was bidding on this one other pin in the lot, and I knew that it might be worth about 200. But when I went through the actual lot of pictures and went on the internet to look for comps about what some of the other pins were going for, there were 2 that I ended up getting $500 a piece for, and they were these just simple Wisconsin cheese festival pins, but they were over 100 years old, and Wisconsin people love their cheese, as they demonstrated by bidding on these 2 pinbacks.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
that's truly a diamond in the rough.
it really was. It was completely overlooked, and I found homes for these 2 things for people who are very avid collectors, one of whom was in California.
Really. They had there's some sentimental tie that drew them to buy that. And you're just trying to find that niche.
I'm making that connection, and eBay helps facilitate that. Only downside being that, eBay is going to charge a 15% fee. However, they make it easy and they give you one of the largest audiences. So as long as you can work that into your margins, then it's a necessary evil.
Yeah. Because that probably is still the most popular platform for selling these types of items.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook's doing their best, but I find that it's just, I want to be the best at one thing.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. I think that's great. That's a great win.
Yeah,
But those
that.
are and easy to ship, right? First class mail. Put it in a padded envelope and just off it goes.
Oh yeah. Well, in that case, I put it in a priority with insurance because I don't want someone saying that it got broken or something happened to it.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, at that value, you're exactly right. Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. It's too bad you don't find those every week, right?
Oh, it would be amazing, but but you stay motivated. If you went one all the time, it wouldn't feel like a victory.
Right. That's true. That's true. It would dilute itself. Tell us about some other successes you've had.
Let's see. There's I mean, I just recently pivoted into ties, and I had mentioned the one floral tie, which I thought was really cool. But then I've noticed that there are also other people that will endorse ties and artistic designs. So when I was digging through a bin about a month ago, I uncovered the Rush Limbaugh collection, believe it or not. So I guess in the early 2000s or late 90s, he endorsed a lot of artistic ties that were sometimes geometrical in pattern. Um, and the politics of him aside, I was just like, I wonder if these sell. So I'm in the store and I'm looking it up on my phone for comps, and they sell. I was able to buy 5 of them for $5, and I sold them for 70. So again, it was a great margin. It was more than 10 times what I paid for it, which is my criterion if I can. So that was a great high margin victory. Another one that is hard to find, but occasionally you'll find a vintage T-shirt that was kind of fashionable in its time, and people still want them 20 to 30 years later. So there are like surfer brands from California that people like Stussy. I think my brother Mark used to wear their clothes. And so I found one of those. It was like this really kind of tacky bird pink floral shirt for $5, but I sold it for like 60 or something. So I mean, just you never know what's out there that people might like or feel sentimental about. Um, and then I guess the really my coolest, most inspiring recent home run. I went out of my comfort zone. There's a garage sale I went to a couple weeks ago, and as you know, in Chicago, garage sale season is limited because it's going to snow any day. And they drew me in on the ad because they were talking about antique toys, and I don't know a lot about it, but about antique toys. But if they're inexpensive, I'll take a chance. And so I'm digging through things, and I only brought $50 because I try not to spend more than that in a clump in case I have a run of bad judgment. And while I'm looking through things, she's like, "Yeah, my mom lived next door. I actually have this old vintage dress if you're interested or curious." And I'm like, I don't normally buy women's clothing, but I'll look at anything. Sure, show it to me. And it was this very interesting dress. It was made from copies of a print of an old Impressionist painting that's actually in the Chicago Art Institute. And the painter is Georges Seurat. And it was a painting of people that were along this river in France. And they have umbrellas and various things. But the entire dress is a design print of that painting. And sure enough, I looked at the tags. They looked old. There was nothing wrong with the actual piece of clothing. There was no pilling, no holes, no moth-eaten spots. And so I'm like, $20. I don't know enough about clothes. Would you take 15? And she's like, okay, cool. I want to move it on. So I actually put it up this past week on eBay after doing some homework. And I noticed that some people have made sweaters out of this very same Seurat painting. And the sweaters were going for 80 to $90. So right away, I'm like, ooh, that's 6 times what I paid for it. Let's put it up for 150 and just see what happens. And my strategy when I'm selling stuff, I'm flipping on eBay is if I'm not sure what it's worth, I'm always going to start it as an auction because I don't know what it's worth. I want the market to tell me. And if no one bids on it, then I know I priced too high and I can price it as a fixed price and let someone make me an offer. But in this case, I let it go at auction and it got bid up to $273.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you made more than your 10 times your purchase. That's awesome.
Almost 20. I was very excited. I don't know if I'm quite ready to go digging through women's clothing in the stores just yet, but when an opportunity presents itself that's low-hanging fruit like this, I'll definitely take it.
Well, that's really smart. Start small and cut your teeth on one here, one there, and not overexpose yourself to a market that you're not real sure of.
Exactly.
That's tremendous. You got a keen eye for that. That's awesome. But you make me think about. I have some Jerry Garcia ties that I wore back in the day. I'm like, wow, those are really nice. Those are expensive ties. I bought them brand new. But I'm wondering if there's a market for those ties.
There is, but it depends on the type. I've actually been doing homework on them because I have 4 or 5 of them I'm accumulating in my man cave as we speak. So
Yeah.
there are certain artist-proof ones that are a little more desirable that people want and will pay a premium for. The regular collection ones, you usually do your best selling them in lots, and you'll average about $5 a tie.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, which is better
Well,
than nothing.
I what's that?
It's better than nothing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, right now they're just sitting on a tie rack. I rarely wear neckties. I mean, to a wedding here and there, but in my normal business, I'm in and out of trucks all day long. Ties are getting away.
Yeah, in my business, we
But
can't wear them either. They're germ collectors.
sure, yeah, no doubt. Um, but it actually reminds me. Years ago, I was at a garage sale, and I happened to. It was in the neighborhood, and I walked in and I saw what I knew were ladder jacks. You know what those are? You hook them on a ladder, you put a platform. If you like, build scaffolding,
Oh yeah.
big steel things. And I knew what they were, and I asked the woman selling them, and she's like, "Yeah, I just want to get rid of them. $10, really?"
Wow.
So I bought them. There was more than $10 of steel in them. If you go to a scrapyard, these things are heavy. And but talking to you, I'm thinking, oh, gee, I probably could sell them for quite a bit because they're all steel. They're the newer ones are more like formed, aluminum or some other types of material. These are old
Mm.
steel. There's probably a market for that kind of stuff.
Oh,
So
most definitely. That's something
you
you'd want to do locally on like a Facebook Marketplace because it'd be too expensive to ship, but you'd
sure,
still be able to put something up on Marketplace and someone would want to get it locally because there's tons of contractors around Chicagoland.
yeah, and honestly, I used them a couple times, which I got my money's worth out of it because I used them when I needed them. But now they're just in the way in my garage.
Yeah.
So that's a you've kind of piqued my interest on that. And I actually have a couple old digital cameras. When we adopted our first daughter, I went out to the camera store and I bought a digital camera. It was probably a 2.1 megapixel camera. At the time, it was cutting edge, and I bought all the accessories. It didn't matter. I'm going to adopt my daughter, and I just bought it all. And they saw me coming, and but I have it in a drawer because I'm like, well, what are we gonna do with that thing? I didn't realize that there's a market for that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're in working condition and they've been tested. Other one that I've got to dip my feet into at some point is old MP3 players, believe it or not.
Okay, like the original iPods?
If you have an original iPod, those are actually like those are holy grail status. But even like an old Zune, the ones that were trying to compete with the iPod but they failed. Microsoft made a Zune product. There's a couple others
Really?
like that. Yeah, some people collect tech stuff. And so, but again, they may not be worth their original full retail. But if you found it and the price is zero, then it's still worth what it's worth to you.
Yeah, no doubt. And if they're sitting in a drawer collecting dust and you can get $10 or $15 for it, well, it's one less thing that's collecting dust in your home, and you put a few bucks in your pocket.
Exactly.
So it really is a win. But well, I haven't thought about that in a long time. That's really intriguing.
It's fun. There's always treasure around you. You just don't always identify it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you have to have the eye tuned in that, and I know my wife watches your channel religiously, and I've caught several of your episodes. In fact, I was interested. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't watched it yet, but I did know you had one where you're thrifting on vacation. Was that when you were in Arizona?
Yeah, that was the Arizona one, and then we actually did. I did another video with the boys when we were up in Delavan, Wisconsin. We did a weekend up there.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
there's
Well,
Goodwill stores everywhere. So my thought is, why not take the show on the road?
sure, why not? You get your phone with all you need is you're not carrying a lot of equipment, right? You carry your phone and you just
Yeah,
a
I
few
have a
bucks in your
tripod.
pocket.
Yeah, I have a tripod in my basement, and the video quality on the iPhone is really good. I just have to be conscious of what format I'm using because you have to have the phone aligned a certain way if you're doing short content, and then you have to do it laterally if you're doing longer format.
Sure, sure,
So
yeah. Well,
part of the.
that's some of the experience you get though, right?
I'm sorry.
That's some of the experience you gain by doing it a few times, and you learn what works better and what doesn't work.
Exactly. I'm actually kind of, embarrassed to look back at my first couple videos because I didn't know what I didn't know. And because a lot of this YouTube channel for me, I admit humbly, is self-taught. It's just me being real, and me trying different formats to see how to best connect with people who are like-minded.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I've been doing the same here with my podcast. I've been doing this for about a year now, and I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. When I listen back to my first couple podcasts, it's kind of like, oh boy. But we still get a lot of listens on all the episodes, and so I get comfort in knowing that I'm still providing value, even if it wasn't the highest quality or the best production value and the best production editing. The reality is we're providing value, and that's really why I did the podcast and why I continue to do the podcast, and I really enjoy doing it. So you got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, I can totally identify with that. I was providing value, but scrappy value.
Yeah, but that's okay. At least I'm sure your views are growing over time, and hopefully our listeners that are listening to this show, when they go out to your podcast or your YouTube channel, send you a message and mention to you that they heard about you on I Got a Guy podcast.
Oh,
I would love to hear back those that okay, they met you for the first time here on I Got a Guy podcast. So let me know that we're connecting with the right people, and we're actually adding value. And I love it when my guests come back to me and it's like, oh, in fact, just a couple weeks ago I had an episode, and within a day of running the podcast, the guest emailed me that he got a lead off of the podcast, and they specifically came to him because they heard him on the podcast, and that warms my heart because that's why I'm doing it. I don't generate any money off of this. This is not a revenue generating activity. This is something to give back and help people, and just explore a different side of me, and share that with the world. So I'm thrilled to be able to do that.
That's awesome.
So, any other successes or tidbits of knowledge you want to share with our listeners?
Successes, I think I gave a fair amount there. I'm still basking in that one item I just sold this weekend. As far as just the channel itself, can I share a little bit about the channel?
Please
Great.
do. Yes.
Yeah, I've been playing and experimenting with a variety of formats. I know a lot of people, and YouTube has been pushing towards short content, and so a lot of videos that are 60 seconds or less are shorts, and a lot of people like to watch a lot of things very quickly. And so I'm trying to hone my my craft at that and try to figure out, what engages my audience. And again, I think a lot of people like seeing wins and home runs. So when I find something, I'll try to do a quick short in the store. I've also played with overdubbing music and subtitles for some of them also, just for amusement, both of myself and maybe the viewer. Another thing is a lot of people watch YouTube or have been for years like it's a television show. They want to watch a 30-minute show or something. But again, I think the more recent mindset is towards shorter amounts more often. So I feel like the videos that I'm making are usually averaging about 10 minutes a piece, and someone can have a quick ability to watch it and then go back to doing something else. And again, I think it's part of our society's desire to, extract as much dopamine as possible. I guess we all want to get, enjoy as much as we can. So
Right.
so I've kind of tailored some of my videos to those kind of trends, I feel. But I've also tried to make it just down to earth and humble and real. I'll put, snarky, sarcastic comments in my subtitles, things that I bought that I screwed up and had to just donate or put it back. I'll admit it freely, because I need people to know what's good out there to buy, but also what not to get distracted by and waste your money on.
Sure.
So I feel like it's been a good learning experience in that regard too. Just, YouTube wants you to try to cater to their population. And yeah, the goal is to get more subscribers and monetize and all that. And the analytical part of me loves to try to do that, but it also seems to be towards an end, and I can still control my own content, for my mission, which is to connect people with cool things and help them resell.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most important things you stated there is the real aspect. So often we watch things on, whether it be on Facebook or on YouTube, and it's nothing but successes, and nobody has 100% success in their life. And it's important, and so if you're trying to incent somebody to follow in your footsteps, or try to go out and do some thrift shopping, well, they have to know that they're going to make some mistakes along the way. And so being real and saying, hey, you know what? I bought this for $2 and I couldn't sell it, and I had to donate it. Well, it's a lesson learned, and your audience can benefit from that just as they can benefit from knowing that you spent $1 on an item and sold it for $33.
Michael, you
So
just gave me an idea for one of my next videos. I'll do a video of all losers, all the stuff that's sitting here that I'm ready to donate. Like, don't buy
that's
this,
great.
buy this. Thank you. Sometimes it just you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad to help, and can't wait to watch that video. But it's I've listened to so many different seminars and programs over the years, and every one of them, they want to invest X amount of dollars and you're going to make millions, and do this and you're going to make, and the reality is that along the way you're going to stumble, you're going to skin your knees, and that's okay. And so by you being real, it just puts you on a different playing field than those that are just pie in the sky, all awesome all the time.
Yeah, my hope is that could be a differentiator for my channel and help me stand out compared to other, successful channels. Is just, yeah, I'm not always gonna hit home runs, but when I do, I'm gonna relish them, and when I don't, I'm gonna be fair about it and probably self-deprecating, which I think is fun.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, we have to laugh at it too, and and the best part is, you're not taking the deed of your house to these thrift stores to give away the farm, and you put $50 in your pocket, and you're like, okay, well, if I spend $50 and it's bust, it's bust, and it's not the end of the world, and that's also a valuable lesson to learn. Know your limits. It's like everything else, right? Everything in moderation, and you can have fun. You probably meet some pretty awesome people along the way too.
Oh, I do. I mean, just like you have a lot of networking within business, there's networking amongst thrifters and buyer resellers. I've been able to connect with a friend of mine. Now I can call him a friend. His name's Tom. We've been trading and commiserating about purchases and sales for years. And he actually, during the pandemic, quit his city job. He got his pension and decided to do estate cleanouts. And so he moved out to St. Charles area or Geneva area, has a house, has a barn next to the house, and he gets invited to do clean outs, and he's making his business doing that, but then he accumulates all these other items. And so he'll even sell things to me at a deep discount, knowing that I'll resell it, but he doesn't have the human bandwidth to be able to sell everything. So he decides what's highest yield for him. I'm a hobbyist right now and working my way up. So I get to have that connection with him. And I bought a giant box of watches from him a couple months ago for $100, 100 watches for $100, many of which just needed batteries. So things like that, it's like I was willing to put in the time because it was a fun way to tinker and learn
Sure.
about watches. And, he was able to clear out some of his inventory. So it's fun to have like a win-win situation.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Have you ever talked to any junk haulers?
I haven't yet. I feel like that would be next level because I would need a lot more square footage. That unfortunately is probably a non-starter in my current situation.
Well, not necessarily buying a whole lot, but at least connecting with a junk hauler where you might find a box of watches or a box of
That's a good
pins or
point.
something.
Yeah.
Because they're cleaning out garages and basements and houses, hoarding situations, what have you, and filling up a trailer full of stuff. And they have
Yeah.
to get rid of that. Some of that they donate, they scrap, what have you, and they make money off of that. I mean, that's the other side. They make money from the effort of cleaning out that fixture, that garage or a house or what have
Yeah.
you. But then they make money on selling or scrapping that stuff. So I
Exactly.
wonder
That's
if
the
there's
gravy.
yeah, exactly. That is the gravy. But I wonder if that might be an opportunity for you to meet a few of those. And I have one I might be able to introduce you to. I don't know how much
That'd be
hauling
great.
he does, but it's a little side thing that he does. But it just kind of popped in my head.
Oh, great idea. I'd be very interested. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, that's fun. This has been great. I'm really glad we connected on this, and you're willing to take some time today to record this episode. Um, Great information, fun little hobby that
Yeah, thank you.
can put some money in your pocket and give you some interesting experiences and connections with people and do something with your kids and the whole thing it's a whole win, big win.
Exactly. It's about connecting with other humans and finding common interests with people and helping people find things that they like and cherish from people who didn't.
Right, right. It's all about connecting the dots. And as they say, one man's treasure, another man's treasure, right? Or one man's trash, another man's treasure. I got
Exactly.
that a little wrong, but yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. So, Dave, share your eBay store and your YouTube channel again for our listeners, so they can
Yeah,
find you and tell you all about it.
yeah, thank you. The YouTube channel is Thrift Store Dave, all one word, and the eBay channel is LC208, ELSIE 208. And
Okay,
yeah,
great.
please mention, make some comments on videos. A little bit selfishly, because comments also steer more traffic to the videos, so more people can enjoy the content. But if you didn't feel comfortable commenting publicly, you could always send me a message, and my email is attached to both accounts. So always just fun to make connections with new people.
Yeah, that would be great. And to our listeners, I encourage you to do that. Check out both his eBay store and the YouTube channel, and tell him that you heard him here on I Got a Guy podcast. And then it's a great way for us to understand the value of what we're doing today, and hopefully you all enjoy that and learn something along the way. So look forward to your future episodes. And I really appreciate you coming on, Dave.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Mike.
Yeah, and as we wrap up this show here, let me just throw a quick mention here, just as a side, kind of a completely different vein, and this is about my day job, which is Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. We work with business owners that own commercial vehicles. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. So we have a wide range of solutions, and we're able to help a multitude of businesses. In some cases, they want to know where their vehicles are throughout the day. Sometimes it's for theft protection. Things are getting stolen left and right. If you have an issue in your area, we can help you at least know where your assets are. If they are stolen, the police can then recover them, and you don't have to, hopefully file an insurance claim and all that mess. So a lot of great value that we're offering a lot of companies, and our business is growing steadily. We're very proud of that. And if you have those vehicles and you want to talk a little bit more about it, I'd be happy to have a conversation. You can reach us here at Precise Fleet Tracking at 847-865-6008. That's 847-865-6008. And our website is precisefleettracking.com. Precisefleettracking.com. So ways to get in contact with us via the website, and you can listen to our I Got a Guy podcast through the website, as well as call us directly. We'd love to have a conversation with you and see if we're a fit. And if you have a commercial vehicle, if you have a logo on the outside of the vehicle, we believe there should be a tracking unit inside the vehicle. So reach out to us. We'd love to have that conversation. So that's the commercial. But Dave, again, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate you taking some time on your day off, and hopefully our audience really enjoys the conversation.
Thank you, Mike.
So we will be in touch soon. And to our listeners, thanks for listening, and subscribe, share this with your social media circles, and stay tuned for another episode coming up next week. Make it a great week. Take care. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds, and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy podcast.